Hey folks, Studio here, and I have a question for you. What are pro teams doing consistently throughout the tournaments recently? The TSM Invitational, there's MLG Season 3 qualifiers going on, there's IPL qualifiers going on for Season 3, there's OGN going on. What are teams doing consistently? What is, like, the thing we're seeing non-stop? Like, every team's running it. Nothing. I mean, there's really nothing consistent across the board right now. And that is important to remember. No one knows a goddamn thing about what they think is good, what they think is bad. They don't know what's going to be good a week from now. They don't know if what they're doing now is amazing or just some terrible, terrible idea that is easily countered when you think about it for 5 minutes. And because no one knows it, people are just kind of trying things out. They're testing things out. If, like I said this before, if anybody says that something is amazing, right now take it with a grain of salt, because it might just be terrible, and people just don't know how to make it terrible. At the same time, it could be terrible, but there might be that secret to awesomeness. But really, what is good? That is for us to find out as a whole community. Not just one team's gonna have their good strategy until they bust it out in the world scene, and everybody else sees it and copies it. So unless there's like one broken strategy that only one team knows and they use it for like Season 3 qualifiers or something major, there's really nothing super big coming up, and yeah, people don't know anything right now. So today we're going to be looking at Vladimir. Vladimir in a very odd situation. If you watched the TSM series finals this past weekend, Thursday and Friday, you would note that TSM ran a goofy game versus Quantic, their series on Friday, Game 1. Now, TSM, they lose this game. It fails pretty terribly. We're actually going to be watching from Nien's perspective over on Nom Nom. I keep saying Quantic, but their team is now called Nom Nom because Quantic is no longer an organization, because something, 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 all the money is gone. But we're going to be watching through Nom Nom's perspective and how Nien deals with it. We're also going to be kind of addressing what TSM does, why they do it, and what makes it work so well. So let's go ahead, jump into the game. I have a question for you. This one I do have an answer to. Why would you send an AD carry mid? There are lots of reasons. For example, you can push down that mid turret very quickly. Most AP champions, like Vladimir, they're pretty good at clearing waves. Some aren't, like Ryze, for example, needs his ultimate, and even then, it's not that strong early on. But Nien, playing Vladimir, he's going to be good at clearing waves, but usually until like level 4, level 5. Anything before that, it's not super great. And of course, AD carry support is what I'm talking about. Support, though, what does support have as an option? Well, everything is closer. I mean, obviously, you can't get a tri-bush as quickly, but you can get to the red buff and the other red buff and the blue buff and the other blue buff. And Dragon and Baron, not really quite as important, but you can get there very quickly. That's important because Xpecial, his main goal is not going to be there to shut down Vladimir. That's going to be very difficult. You can't really shut down someone like Vladimir in the mid lane because the lane is too damn short. Instead, Xpecial's role is going to be help punish him a bit, maybe give him a bit of damage onto Nien in the mid lane. But overall, he wants to roam. He wants to, gank in the jungles. And this is an important thing. This is actually really common in Asia right now, at least from what I've heard in some of the Chinese scene. Teams aren't really running just standard, 1-1-2. There's a lot of roaming going around. There's a lot of chaos going around, as frankly, well, you have to go ahead and just see if something works, and teams, they think that the pressure-heavy meta might be enough. Laning mid lane isn't about having a support in AD, even though you're going to have the support there at some point. It's about, constantly roaming around the map, punishing the jungle or taking the jungle. Very jungle-centric in a way, because junglers are the more exposed ones. Still, Xpecial, now that he's going to be hanging out in the mid lane, he can gank bot, he can gank top. He can just do more. He can also spend a little bit more time helping Odd One kill this blue buff. For example, KX is doing a decent amount of damage himself, but I'm actually surprised. I thought he went back a little bit earlier. They didn't need to stay that long, though. Xpecial could have just dealt more auto attacks KX. Oh, he doesn't miss a first creep. Good for him. Oh, because he can push fast. But now, this lane, it's not super great for getting pressured for TSM. Like, TSM won't be able to pressure this lane very well. Because, well, Nien's Vladimir. I mean, he's kind of weak level 1. His harass is decent. He might get zoned out for some CS, but he very, very quickly can take advantage of the fact that the lane's short. And honestly, look at the damage Special took there. I mean, the damage Nian does is terrible. That is not good damage, but it's very, very easy for or it's not consistent damage because the cooldown is really high. But it's very, very easy for Special to go ahead and just take a lot in response. He takes those Qs, he's going to die. Now, Nian's fighting Special right now. Though Special does a lot of damage right there. Man, that was like AP quintessences in terms of damage. Chaox though, he roams towards red buff. So I mentioned Special's gonna be doing the roaming. Well, Chaox can too. This is a play that I don't know if I like, but I kind of get the idea behind it. Also, Chaox accidentally takes the aggro from red buff because he was in the area, and well, gets chased out. But the idea was go there, catch High, punish him, and High's losing that 1v1, or tying with that 1v1. So now High jungle has been shut down a bit. Not too much CS missed by Chaox, a decent amount in the end, because look at that big creep wave, but not a super massive amount. And this sets up, even though eliminations are to help, this sets up Special with the possibility of taking out High if he does get a bit too exposed. Doesn't work though. High just gets taken very, very low. As a great spell shield there, absorbs the health picks, so he's able to go ahead and get away. Health picks might have forced a flash actually. Oh. And Midlane's going back to farming, so that's kind of the idea. It's like, have someone roam from mid lane, preferably it's going to be Special, but if they need more damage, they can have Chaox roam. And Yen, what did he do the entire time? Like, it's important to look from his perspective. This is a short game, so not too much time wasted. So, all that fighting's going on. Yen, what's he doing mid lane? He's just farming. And he takes a lot of damage from Special. This threw me off, but part of it is the creep damage. He did belt auto attack, and those creeps are just wrecking him because he only has 19 armor. And the other part was Lulu has decent base values, hit level 2 first, and got the QE combo off on him. Now, Vladimir's level 2. He has a point in the E because he doesn't really expect to fight. And it's mostly just to go ahead and CS more. CS underneath his own turret because there's going to be a lot more consistent push coming out. And note that High, even though he picked his red buff, he still can't gank. That's important. He cannot gank that lane because, well, guess what? He's low on HP. He has nothing. He can't gank mid, he can't gank bot, and top, Obelm got a kill. So it's a better setup for TSM right now. Now overall, Gold's still not super far in their advantage, and it is important to remember that Chaox, he is not shutting down Vladimir, which means Kog'Maw is getting free farm himself. So there are very clearly problems with this. Bot lane, it's not super exciting. It's just Reginald, if Nuna's around, takes a little bit of damage. If Nuna's not around, doesn't really take damage. But he can't really farm himself super well because of the pressure coming out. Nian, he's taking damage, but his CS is still good. This is something that I would love to see this go played against a Diana, for example. Diana would be fun to watch because her lane clear early on in the game is not super impressive. She may not die because she has a lot of defenses, but she probably won't get that much farm. She probably won't get the same free farm Vladimir will eventually get. Anybody who can wave clear, though, is going to be a massive problem, even if it takes a little while, just because eventually you're sacrificing a 1v2 lane, top or bot, or a 2v2 lane, and you're losing farm on your bot laner. It's important to note that Reginald only has 9 CS. Nian has 22. Yuzuki has 10, but he's gotten camped, ganked a second time by Maokai, but still he has more CS than Reginald. Kog'Maw has 27. The CS numbers are in favor of Nom Nom, like all around. They cannot let that free farm go unabated. But that's kind of the point of trying a strategy like this, like see what the big flaws are. Of course, Nian, he's just farming like a champ. He takes a lot of pressure, but he knows he's Vladimir. He knows he has that heal. And now he's watching for Xpecial leaving the lane. If Xpecial leaves, he may not be able to force a duel, but he can definitely deal a lot of damage to Chaox. And even if he doesn't get the kill, well, maybe Chaox has to retreat. Maybe Chaox is going to miss a lot of CS. And, well, Nian has better wave clear. So, look how quickly he gets his HP back. He's running AP, or move speed quintessences, and some MP masteries. So he has really high mobility, and he's kind of spanning back and forth. Chaox shows up, gets a decent amount of damage on him. Not a lot of armor on Yin, but still, he does his thing, gets his CS and backs off. And it's very scary for Chaox to fight him. Chaox, even though he has the Lungster, he has decent damage, he doesn't have that same sustain. And Vladimir's base damage is surprisingly high. So let's watch this little duo go out. And don't forget, Vladimir does have heal, and Chaox does not have ignite. So what made that duel work? How did Nian win that? That's a very fast duel. It's just, he gets the Q, he gets the E. That right there takes Chaos down to about half HP. The minions just keep wailing on him, and this is really good minion control. Those minions take Chaos down to 200 HP. They deal about 200 damage right there. It's important to know, I keep mentioning this, but minions do tremendous amounts of damage. Unfortunately for Nian, he doesn't feel like committing. He could try and all in that, could try and pick up that kill, but it's risky, so he backs off. But still, it's a 2v1 lane. He is at 41 CS. He's actually farther ahead in CS and Chaos because he had to do that early roaming. And it's important to note that Nian, well, he has that really good push potential. He can go ahead, just shove a lane in, and shut them down. TSM, they realize this problem. They realize that, okay, Maokai, he's got 2 kills. He's doing really well. Yuzuki's being shut down, kind of. 17 CS behind Rumble, but still getting CS. Chaos is doing well, 37 CS, about equal with Wild Turtle. Reginald has 21 though, so he's about Yuzuki's level, and that's decent. Still though, they're kind of scared that eventually Vladimir will get that farm, and they're not going to do anything by having him 1v2 anymore. So they send Reginald mid lane. And it's weird to say is Nian kind of fights this off just by farming a lot and focusing and just applying pressure when he sees a chance to sneak in a Q or to sneak in a QE combo like he did earlier. And aside from that, just farming. This is Vladimir's specialty. Note that Vladimir scales really well with early AP. The reason you don't see it very often top lane is it's not enough scaling, it's not enough healing. But his Q, doing 200 damage at level 6, you factor in that you get an extra 12% damage from his ultimate, and that Tides of Blood will be doing, that's higher than I remember, about 170 damage at 4 stacks, and his burst is really high. So that mid lane is also still a kill potential if Chaos does go ahead and go for a fight. Now this is where I'd say TSM plans start to fall apart. They have Reginald going toward the mid lane. He does secure blue buff for himself, even though he... Wait a second, got the buff. Okay, Reggie, I just can see the animation. There it is, look how small it is. So they send Reginald mid lane with blue buff. He can now spam. He doesn't really do that much damage to Yen though. And Yen, the way he was spec'd, he has Manmar runes. He was trying to take Reginald's damage. So a plan like this, when it doesn't work, this is a chance for a team to learn. TSM, they took a big risk in this game by running this strategy, and we're going to start, now we start to see where it breaks apart. TSM, they have 2 kills over Nom Nom, but they don't have that much of gold advantage, only 300, which is not very big. Nocturne used the ultimate bottom to try and go for a gank, but wasn't quite in range, and still with that, Chaos really doesn't have that much fight potential in him. He can't really deal with Kog'Maw, well, frankly. Had a chance to get the levels, Kog'Maw had a chance to get his own abilities, and he can deal with pressure quite well. This is this is a good example of what can go wrong. They go for Lemon. Lemon, does he go down? Nope. He survives. They don't have the burst from Reginald because Reginald doesn't have the items because he wasn't in a farm lane. Nian shows up and is able to go ahead, just press his buttons, is just what I'm going to say. And Xpecial is dead with that. The shield won't be enough. Chaos is already dead. Boom. Now, watch Reggie's burst. This is important. This is why the plan failed. Reggie doesn't have the items, and it's not Reginald's fault. It's because they put him in 1v2 lane. It's like the strategy as a whole was flawed. He does get exhausted. That's important. But still, when he goes for Lemon, it takes a lot more time, a lot more resources. It takes Chaos' ult, for example, to try and shut him down, and it's just nowhere near enough. Even if Chaos' ultimate had landed, they still would have lost people. Because Lemon, well, with 10 HP, he's not going anywhere. And Yen, he's super farmed to hell. So think about characters and how they carry a game. Who has the farm on TSM? A lot goes to Rumble up top lane. Look at that beefed up Rumble, has cloth armor. He's level 8 to Yuzuki's level 7, still pressuring him, just beating him up. Yeah. Odd One has a decent amount of kills, but he was caught outside the jungle. So it's important to note that all the gold that Nom Nom was getting was going to Nian. He was getting the free farm mid lane. Troll was doing well bot lane, but not getting the same quite free farm that Nian ended up getting. And Reginald, he wasn't getting anything. So looking at his item build, he has boots, cloth armor, flask. So a strategy like this, the problem is the mid laner, I'd say the guy who has the most impact in the mid part of a game, once you start seeing the roaming come in from mid lane, mid laners do the most in team fights because they have that burst, which I mean, frankly, Malphite does. But because he doesn't have any items, because Yuzuki or Nien had a revolver, that 40 AP, that burst was insane. And Reginald, even though he showed up earlier to the fight, could not do anything because all he had was nothing. He had no items to really do anything with. It's like a boots and cloth armor will not necessarily give Malphite that much burst. It's an extra, like, what? Let's see. 6 damage. No, cloth armor's 15 now. It's an extra. It's an extra, like, 4.5 damage? That's not a lot of damage. And now original mid lane can't really lane against Nien. I just watched that chase. It's actually really kind of depressing. Still though, TSM, even though they kind of got trashed in that regard, you know, they're trying something new. And Nien, he's able to go ahead and just deal with it really well. And, alright, the plan failed. Now the mid laner is far behind. Now Chaos is, you know, not super far ahead. Reginald, even with his ultimate, the heal on Nien is just too much. He just walks right on out of there. Doesn't get the ultimate trigger on from the element, still would have survived that. It's just like, he's fine. And TSM, they have mid laner who's not fine. And they have no real advantage now. Except for top lane. But Yuzuki's able to fight back top lane because Rim vs. Rumble's a weird matchup where eventually Rumble just doesn't do enough. Rumble without boots. Darius spent way too long top lane before buying, and unfortunately I was able to punish that. Like, just watch high. It's like Reginald Darius just trying to keep the farm, trying to get that really big CS advantage, which he does. Look at those creeps dying. But it's just like, it's just high chasing him down. Now, I'm not just going to show the rest of this game to be like, yo, check it out, TSM messed up. Yo, it's funny, man. Now, think about what could have made the strategy work. So, I mentioned this before, a mid laner like Diana. Could Diana really hold against that 1v2 pressure? Can Gragas hold against it? Eventually they will be able to free farm, but it's a lot different, you know, Vladimir versus Diana. Vladimir will have really good defensive options early game. He's got really good sustain, even early game, compared to Diana. So maybe he can survive that 1v2 lane. Reginald going bottom, playing Malphite, maybe they need some, like, Malphite's a good character for that because he can go ahead and get by without farm, but maybe they need to play someone who, I'm trying to think, someone who can get more CS, I'd say, or in a 1v2 lane. Malphite's not great at it, because even though he has a shield, he doesn't have the best way to clear it. He doesn't have a lot of options. Vladimir's decent at it, for example. Jace is great at it. Maybe they need someone like that. And welcome to the mid-game team fight, where Nien shows up to finish off its special. Run, special, run! Run! Go in! Get away! Get away! Good turn block it. But it's not enough. Nowhere near enough. Nowhere near close to anything enough. Vladimir play, very specifically. Yeah, makes a lot of good moves. He spams his Tides of Blood like crazy. That's because he always wants it up. As yeah, I went suicided. That's because he always wants it up for the spam. The passive on it, like, it doesn't have it up now, but if you're going to a lane to fight, if you're going to a lane to really deal damage with it, having it at 4 stacks makes it do tremendous amounts of damage. Now it's doing, let's see, 130, 260. Which is a lot of damage considering that Nien only has a revolver for AP, and that's on a 6-second cooldown, and it's an AoE, and it's a fairly big AoE. Reginald mid lane still has some fight in him. This is kind of like showing, like, if he had a bit more, if he had just a bit more items, maybe he could be making bigger plays, but unfortunately, Reginald's spam for damage is nowhere near enough compared to Nien's. He's just pushing, he's just farming. He is saying, TSM, you guys did not shut me down early. Now I'm just going to farm. I'm just going to get all the gold I possibly can in the shortest amount of time. And you have to deal with that push, you have to deal with that pressure, but you cannot kill me. Because I am Vladimir. I am Vladimir the amazing, I'm the amazing pusher, amazingly hard to gank mid laner. I am Vladimir the Magnificent. So, Diana might have worked well. Maybe they needed someone like Vladimir himself in the bot lane, because he can 1v2 decently. Jace is another example. Even Darius. Darius is really good at the 1v2. He's done a lot of work with Rumble in the past, so maybe that's what they needed. And it's up to TSM not necessarily to just say, man, the strategy sucked, because maybe this strategy could have worked if they didn't have the right circumstances, the right controls. They had in early 2 kills. They had better lanes. They shut down Yuzuki. They prevented Hai's early ganking presence entirely. But what really ends up biting them in the butt is the fact that Reggie can't do anything anymore. I want to reinforce that is not Reginald's fault. CSing on 1v2 lane as Malphite is a huge pain. You don't really have good options. Ground Slam doesn't do enough to clear the waves quickly. Like, it's like if you use Ground Slam, it's going to be for the last hit on a creep. So if you do that, well, you miss the CS on all the other creeps that get taken out by the turret and aren't in kill range. So now is the time for pro players to go ahead and think of like what they need. At the end, I also want to comment on what he builds in this game. This is a pretty big stomp in the end, but he builds a very specific item set. I've seen him do it before, or a second time after this, but it's different circumstances, and it wasn't quite as tanky is the word I'm going to use. Just note that when Vladimir's far ahead, killing him can be a big issue in terms of tankiness. So if fight goes on top lane, Yen just shows up. He's looking for the kill on the Alban. Alban doesn't have any mana, but he does have his flash available. He can't escape this. Like he walks up to the brush and then it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and help push, help clear waves like that. But when I say that Yen is gonna be hard to kill, well, he's already hard to kill. So Alban initiates onto him, gets the red buff proc onto him, but they just don't have the burst. Original doesn't have enough mana. They do take out high, so that was their focus early on. But because Yen survives, guess what? This means he'll get a kill. Or not get a kill, he'll heal up very quickly, because he has that sustain from transfusion. So when you're playing someone like Vladimir, this is a build that I've only seen work when a team is far ahead. And the reason is, if you fall far behind, you won't be doing quite enough as Vladimir, because the enemy team will start getting magic resist. The AP you get from having a lot of HP won't be enough. But Yen's going to build a Warmogs. And Warmogs is amazing on Vladimir, because, well, the regeneration is insane. The HP gives you, it's 1000 HP, so, and it gives you, I believe, 40 ability power? Yeah, or 40 HP gives you 1 ability power. So that's going to be an extra 25 AP. Not a lot, very little AP in the end. It's a nice little bonus. Also, Nin's going to die here because he stayed out too far. The Ignite ticks, he's pulled, he's dead. Also note that that was 5 kills for that 500 gold bonus. So now gold scales very, very quickly for killing sprees. But Vladimir, what's he gonna build? Let's look for it. Let's look for it. Let's look for it. No, that's Bunny. That's Bunny Riven. Ah. Come on, Yen. Respawn. There we go. He built a Warmogs and a Spirit Visage and a Revolver. How much gold did he have before he died? I just need to know this now because I didn't realize he bought that all at once. He had 4,000. Okay, that's insane. Now, don't always build the same auto build on characters, especially one like this. What is the end's goal going to be? Well, Tides of Blood has pretty decent base damage. Just remember, this used to be higher. It's doing 400 every 4 seconds. He gets the extra, I believe, 15% at this point. This might have been when Spirit Visage was bugged. But he gets extra HP from the Spirit Visage from spamming his spells, because it works with the Revolver. Everything is kind of working in combination. So Spell Vamp plus Spirit Visage plus Warmogs means he's going to have high HP, so he can spam Tides of Blood, which normally would deal damage to himself, but he's healing because of the Spirit Visage and Revolver, and his damage is pretty insane. Like, realize it still takes 2 casts for him to take out a melee creep. He doesn't have a lot of spell penetration. He does have his boots, of course, but he's only at 23 spell pen. So someone like Chaos, he's still going to have a good 20 MR, but that's not a lot of magic resist. That's still a lot of damage going out. We're getting towards the final fight. TSM, they're behind 8,000 gold. This is a very specific situation where just look at Nien's, it's just special. God. He didn't get hit by the Tides of Blood because it was still on cooldown, I believe. No, I got hit by the Tides of Blood. I'm dumb. I'm really dumb. That wasn't just transfusion. That'd be insane. But Nien just has the power to walk forward. The power to be insane. And this is something that you can only do if you're really far ahead, because if not, the enemy team will do too much damage. You start a fight with yourself out of position, but if you're tanky enough, you can survive it for the rest of your team to show up. This is a very fun fight to watch. Alright. What the hell happened there? I also very quickly want to say that I didn't mention this before. Warmogs also works well with Tides of Blood, because that's an extra. Whoa. Well, it's an extra about 200 damage with Warmogs. So, watching this fight again. So Alban has no mana, but Hai showed up to the fight as well as Nian. Hai was the one being caught out. Nian, he just walks into everything though. He's just spamming Tides of Blood. He doesn't really use his pull quickly, and he does get CC'd by Special, so he can't keep chaining his combo. There's actually a really good Whimsy, because he was still alive, or still not, or because he didn't have his cooldowns available to him, and they became available. That was time where he could have cast his spells, but he wasn't able to. Sometimes CC doesn't really do much. He casts the ultimate, and he just sits there spamming. He hasn't used his pull yet. He's waiting on his pull because he knows it's going to be decent when he needs to escape. But his damage is just too high. Dyrus goes down to about half HP with 1 Q from Yuzuki, and just the insane Yen damage. This is a 3v5. Hai's already dead. It's now a 2v5, now a 2v4 that Dyrus has died. And they just keep fighting, they just keep spamming. And there's just nothing TSM can do. They just do not have the DPS to take out Nian. The flash kill into Special. Yuzuki's going fairly low himself. Will he get the kill? Will he get the kill? No. But Reginald, when he goes forward, he doesn't have any penetration, doesn't have any AP. That's just some fire keep, which is good damage. But Nian just can't go down. Like, that is a problem. Nian is too tanky. This is a very, very close fight, though, so obviously not reliable. And of course, how's he going to finish this off? With the unofficial Quadra. And TSM, they actually lose a game, as it happens. That was because that was a 3v5. Nom and Lemon, or Lemon and Turtle, just pushed up to get the Nexus. Now that's a weird game. It's a very weird game. And I don't really consider it indicative of TSM. I think TSM, right now, they're in a huge slump. They went 0-3 at the finals for the TSM series. They went 0-3 at the semifinals at the group stage game that they more or less had to win to stay in it. And they went 2-3 versus Curse, so they were just behind. Whoa, my hair poofed up. Oh well. That's okay. Go away, Maokai sounds. There we go. Okay. So, what failed? I mentioned this before. Nian got his free farm mid lane. He did a very good job of it. He was playing Vladimir. He casted his spells, and got his gold, and then kind of shut him to the other lanes and shut them down. Top lane had that big issue where Yuzuki was able to go ahead and come back in the lane. That was because Dyrus didn't go back at the right time to buy. He had the cloth armor, so that let Hai get a kill onto him, and that was enough time for Yuzuki to go ahead, show up, and get enough CS to survive at least not immediately die, and still get some CS. But what about the concept behind it? Was it good? Well, the early pressure onto the jungle surely paid off. It meant that there was never a 2v2 top lane. Hai could not get red buff and have enough HP to fight, so when Alwyn finally went top lane, it was just Yuzuki being caught out, just that kill, just that very secure moment. Bot lane, what went wrong? Reginald had nothing. He had no gold, no CS. He became their mid laner. You realize he didn't spend a lot of time mid lane. That's because he couldn't. Because every time he'd show up, Nian could just pressure him out. And that's what Nian was doing. It's like, oh, you were 1v2ing? You were the 1v2 guy? Because I was the 1v2 guy, but I was mid lane, so I got a lot more everything. I'm going to beat you up now. And Reginald got beat up. What went wrong in the jungle? Maokai got all the kills, so Dyrus didn't get far ahead and couldn't shut down Yuzuki was actually part of the problem. Jungle, I mean, Alwyn did fine. Nothing really big there. Jungle was, I'd say, a steady part of it, but it was also something that was designed to do well because of the early kills, because it was set up so Hai could not gank, could not 2v2. And the bot lane, the farm lane, what happened with Chaos? Well, because Chaos could not shut down Nian, because he could not fight Nian because of the experience advantage he ended up having in the mid lane, and he did miss a decent amount of CS transitioning back to bot, he was behind. And the 2v2 lane, when they finally approached it, Reginald hadn't really shut down Walter. Like, he still had a ton of farm, and Chaos unfortunately could not really 2v2 well at that point. Like, Lulu Ezreal's a great lane, but Kog'Maw Nunu, if you let them get to level 6 for free and they have equal CS, it's one of the things where if you make one mistake, they just pressure you non-stop with Bioarcane Barrage and can deal tremendous amounts of damage, which is what they did bottom. They did a great job fighting off Chaos and Special. So if you were TSM, you're going to go ahead and look at the replay really quickly. What would be those things to shine upon? Like, what are those things you want to improve? So let's just look at a couple of the big moments that really kind of showed what the strategy was trying to do. So we'll go for the high pressure. So When Chaos roam bot, he came through this area. They knew he was coming. So he shows up here, and another indicator is that High watching red buff go into this brush. This means that, like, Chaos should have known that High would know he's here because he would have seen red buff retreat to a different distance. So that's why this pressure didn't work so well. And unfortunately, Reginald down at bot lane still level 1 versus a level 2 Kog'Maw and level still 1 Nunu can't really do anything to fight them when Nunu roams out. So I'm like, here, special and High start fighting. A little fight. Red buff luckily still not attacking Chaos or High, because that would have been a decider right there. And High, because he takes so much damage, has to use both his health potions, and this is what leads to Niam being able to free farm mid. So what I said was one of the strengths, and what it cost them was a lot of the punishment they wanted mid lane. So how do they make that work? They could send Special down as well. That would have been a good situation. They might have missed some CS, and Yen would have had free farm still, but maybe they could have pressured him afterwards. I'm just shooting out suggestions, of course. I'm really not sure what they could have done in that situation. If they'd let Niam push out a bit, they could have done it as well, but they would have had a longer walk. So they have to ask themselves these questions. They have to see, like, well, how do we make this possibly strong situation work? Of course, the gank top lane is successful, so that was awesome. Because there was no ward here, which special Solid Explorer, like, that could have been it. They could have needed to put a ward down, and then maybe, for example, Chaos could have pressured over the wall and try to shut down High that way, or special could have gotten some extra auto attacks and maybe gotten the flash at least out of High. So that's like one of those things. One of those just small little details that might have been enough to get them the win. Or at least a better early pressure. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's such a small part of the game, but it all kind of snowballs from there. If you get an early kill on a High, and then Maokai's able to take his jungle, you shut down their jungler. Just completely irrelevant. Mid laner gets a lot of farm, your bot laner might miss a lot of farm too. Hopefully they can go ahead and fix that situation just by changing up their lanes. But like, it's set up now where it should work. It's like something better should be happening. And it may take a little more resources, it may take a more of a different style of planning. But that's kind of like, that's how the meta evolves. You do something weird, and then you just kind of play with it, figure it out, and just make it work. And I know this has been kind of an odd episode, but this is what every team is going through. They're looking through the replays. Like, they're trying something, they're looking through the replay going, how do we make that work? Did it just suck? No, that strategy, I like the strategy TSM did. It did not work, though. Why did it didn't work? Well, just lots of small things built up. A couple of big things were there, and they have to find what went wrong, and they have to fix it. Or try something new. Though, it's, don't try, I wouldn't give up a strategy like this. It's a good strat. It's a very cool strat. That's what I wouldn't mind seeing. CLG, they've done stuff like this in the past before, but it wasn't heavy on the roaming. It was more focused on just pressure mid lane, shut down the mid laner. And just, different strategies. They also use a lot of teleport. Anyhow, that's all for today's daily mailbag. Coming tomorrow. As for right now, adios, folks.